the early morning light, the silhouette of a man stood at the edge of a tranquil riverbank, a solitary figure in a vast expanse of nature. His name was Jack, a weathered fisherman with a lifetime of stories etched into the lines on his face. With the first rays of dawn painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Jack prepared himself for another day of casting his net into the river's murky depths. The river flowed gently, its surface shimmering as if adorned with liquid diamonds, while the surrounding trees whispered secrets to the wind. Jack took a deep breath, filling his lungs with the crisp, earthy scent of the morning. He had been fishing these waters for as long as he could remember, and each day held the promise of adventure, of the unknown. With practiced hands, Jack unfurled his net, the mesh glistening in the soft light. He waded into the shallows, feeling the cool water envelop his legs. The river was alive with the gentle hum of insects and the occasional splash of a leaping fish. But for Jack, the tranquility of the scene belied a deeper, more elusive truth. For weeks now, Jack had cast his net into these waters, only to reel it back in empty-handed. It seemed as if the fish had vanished, as if they had become nothing more than whispers in the currents. But Jack was undeterred. He had faced dry spells before, moments when the river seemed unwilling to yield its treasures. Yet, he had always persevered, relying on patience and perseverance to see him through. As Jack cast his net, he let his mind wander, allowing his thoughts to drift like leaves on the surface of the water. He thought of his father, a legendary fisherman who had taught him the ways of the river. He thought of the countless mornings they had spent together, their laughter mingling with the song of the birds. And he thought of the promise he had made to himself, the promise to never give up, no matter how bleak the circumstances. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a warm glow over the riverbank. Jack continued to cast his net, his movements fluid and rhythmic. He watched as the net sank into the depths, disappearing beneath the surface like a silent prayer. But each time he pulled it back, it was empty, devoid of the gleaming silver bodies he sought. Hours passed, and still, Jack persisted. The shadows lengthened, stretching like fingers across the water. Yet, despite his efforts, the fish remained elusive, as if mocking his determination. Jack felt frustration gnawing at the edges of his resolve, threatening to consume him like a hungry flame. But just as despair threatened to take hold, Jack caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of his eye. He turned, his heart quickening with hope, only to see a lone heron waiting in the shallows. The bird moved with a grace that bordered on the divine, its long legs gliding effortlessly through the water. For a moment, Jack watched the heron, mesmerized by its beauty. And then, in that fleeting instant, he understood. He understood that fishing was not just about catching fish, but about the communion between man and nature, about the ebb and flow of life itself. With a newfound sense of purpose, Jack cast his net once more, not out of desperation, but out of reverence for the world around him. He watched as the net arced through the air, a silent prayer offered up to the river gods. And when he pulled it back, it was still empty, just as it had been before. But this time, Jack did not feel disappointment. Instead, he felt a deep sense of gratitude, a gratitude for the river that had sustained him, for the fish that had eluded him, and for the simple act of being alive. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Jack knew that he would return to the river tomorrow, and the day after that, and for as long as he drew breath. For in the end, it was not the fish that mattered, but the journey itself. As the sun sank below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and red, Jack stood at the river's edge, his net draped over his shoulder. The day had slipped away like water through his fingers, leaving behind only the echoes of unfulfilled hopes and quiet determination. With a sigh, Jack glanced down at the empty net in his hands. Despite his efforts, despite the countless hours spent casting and waiting, he had failed to catch a single fish. It was a bitter realization, one that threatened to weigh heavily on his spirit. But as Jack stood there, bathed in the fading light of day, something stirred within him. It was a whisper, soft and gentle, yet filled with a profound sense of wisdom. And in that moment, Jack understood. He understood that fishing was not just about the act of catching fish, but about the journey itself. It was about the rhythm of the river, the dance of the currents, and the communion between man and nature. It was about learning to embrace the uncertainties of life and finding beauty in the simplest of moments. With a smile tugging at the corners of his lips, Jack released the net from his grasp, letting it fall gently to the ground. He knew that he would return to the river tomorrow, and the day after that, not in pursuit of fish, but in celebration of the connection he shared with the world around him. And as he turned to make his way home, the stars began to twinkle overhead, casting their silent blessings upon the river below. For Jack, the journey was far from over. It was only just beginning. And in that realization, he found a peace that filled his heart to overflowing. With a heart full of gratitude and a soul at peace, Jack disappeared into the night, leaving behind only the whisper of the river and the promise of a new day dawning. In the end, it wasn't about the fish he didn't catch, but about the lessons he learned along the way. And for Jack, that was worth more than all the fish in the sea.